Dick jokes always work?
Like dick jokes, pussy jokes, like relationships jokes, and toilet jokes.
It always helps.
Okay, so my stand-up. How does it feel to date a comedian? She sperm what?
Max, you might not be tall enough to donate sperm.
Oh, you work in investment banking? Did you do coke in the morning or afternoon, you know? I think that's on the nerdy part. But I know about the average like dick size.
What's the average dick size?
It's a noble job.
You don't eat bananas because of this?
This is gonna be something but I really don't like to tell people.
I'm just kind of living my life and seeing the humor in all of it.
Hi, this is Female Christ Podcast, and today we have our first episode that will be, I think, different. We took a little bit different direction this time with a quite interesting topic that is part of our, life. Every one of us, to some extent, is it's stand-up comedy, is laughter, is entertainment. Today we have our guest with us, Max. Max is a comedian and entertainer in the broader term of it. Max, please introduce yourself to our audience.
What a wonderful intro. My name is Max. I'm a stand-up comedian here in LA. I'm an actor. I'm from New York.
That was a main thing to say.
You wanted to make sure I got that in without question.
Yes, we need to know.
I've been in LA for 3+ years now.
Awesome. How's your LA still? Are you feeling at home right now?
This past year, I've really started to feel like LA is my home. I felt like it took like a good year and a half to really understand the nature of LA and like just how the city operates. It's a huge town. And then once I started making some solid friends, I felt like I started to click into this place feeling like home a little bit more.
Talking about the friends, how did the humor is actually helping you or not helping you just to make new friends?
It always helps. I think being funny is always a good quality.
It gets you far.
I mean, I think the ability to make people laugh, you don't believe me. I think that
there is some stereotypes on both sides, like some people thinking that behind every comedian there is like, a hurt soul, so you're just like trying to smile all the time, just make people laugh because you're like fucking depressed, so.
Well, that could be. I think that there's all kind. I'm not saying necessarily being funny for a living is like the end all be all. I just think being someone who has a good sense of humor is like a really important skill to have in any industry, in any sense of life.
It's a very important social skill to not only make friends, but like cope with a lot of stuff. And I'd like just to give a few highlights as well. I would love to take a step back and talk a little bit more about the comedy. And it's as stand-up comedy as a genre. It's very interesting to me, so probably I'm going to
Jenny is nerd, I'm nerd, but Jenny is more into history, so let's just give this woman the word.
We need to research everything, know where it came from, why we're doing this, and answer. Just a very brief history that stand-up comedy, it's actually quite new genre. It appeared in 19th century. It evolved in America, so it's very native to United States, and then it kind of spread to Latin America and then Europe, throughout the world. It actually became very popular only in the late half of the 20th century, which is 70s, 80s with Woody Allen, and it's also some of those periods of time starting from 50s till 2000s. In those 50 years, a lot of things happened in terms of social structures being, dismantled, and humor and stand-up comedy played such a huge role in it, also delivering those messages to the society through jokes, actually talking about very controversial topics, getting people, to think about very controversial topics through that genre, which I personally find fascinating, and I love stand-up comedy a lot.
And why America? Just because Americans know how to talk?
I think it's actually like from what I've researched, it like entertainment evolved from minstrel shows and vaudeville, but those also had like costumes and more. It was like more of a play thing with jokes, and this evolved in like it was late 19th centuries, and in 20th century that evolved into more of a there is just a comedian or entertainer performer on the stage, no costumes, nothing, no entertainment, visual or else, and then they just deliver the talk. And that also, like the biggest wave of it and the renaissance of stand-up comedy was when a lot of small clubs appeared, some minor community, like representatives of minor communities in the America that couldn't go to a mainstream places or mainstream shows, they started open their own for their own communities, and that kind of fueled the growth of the stand-up comedy as we know it today. And now obviously we have Netflix specials and YouTube, and it's all like a huge industry, but that's kind of a little bit of a, step back in the history and, how it evolved and where we got right now. So yeah, that's nerd. I think that's on the nerdy part, and then we have so many questions to you to ask.
I've been thinking about like what's the comedy is overall, because some people like they do have this like small, very much small, like minimized vision of the comedy is just like something like a stand-up comedy, but comedy is much more, is like the script writing, is like acting, is parody also, right? So can you just like tell a bit more in which space you're working?
Yeah, listen, I've really enjoyed working in all kinds of comedy. Back in New York, I did improv, I did sketch comedy, I did stand-up comedy. The acting classes I would do had comedy in them. Like, I think that comedy is fun to do all over the place. I think depending on who you ask, they might prefer one type, but I just love doing funny things. I don't really care whether it's in stand-up or on camera or whatever. So I've really dabbled in all of it, and I feel like right now, the sweet spot for me has been doing stand-up.
Okay, so why stand-up?
Why?
Yeah.
So I was always an actor before I was a stand-up, and I think that an actor has a lot of downtime, and I just got kind of tired of waiting for the industry to either give me auditions or give me permission to be part of it. And I feel like stand-up enabled me to just be able to take ownership of that on my own. You don't need anything to be a stand-up. You just need to have a microphone and a place to do it. And so it just seemed a lot easier to just keep doing stand-up, whereas like, if you're an actor, you have to get cameras, you have to go get a script, you have to work with a million other people. Like, you can't just be an actor by yourself, really,
Well, I can say that right now with the digital, you can just do everything with the Instagram.
You can. Yeah, technically you can.
But I see where you're coming from. I love it, like stand-up and entrepreneurial spirit in one place. I agree that, it's so cool to have the ownership, and it's also fascinating that you came through different, you've tried so many different things. So can you tell us a little bit, how did you come to the point where you realized that, hey, I really love entertain people in various formats, and I want to make a living by doing that? So did you discover it early, or that's kind of, came up later?
I think I always had an interest in the movies because my grandfather was in the movie business, and so I always was around movies. And he would always mail movies to us before they came out on home video. And our house was always filled with hundreds of movies. No, he was like legitimately in the business, so he had the ability. He wasn't like pirating movies, like he
preview. It was a.
He wasn't like a guy on like the street like selling movies that were like illegally filmed in the theater. No, he was.
That would be more dramatic story.
No, that would sound terrible.
Let us put some drama.
My grandfather was way more advanced than that in his field. He worked in the movie distribution industry, and so. He was part of the reason why we are able to rent movies on video today. Well, now there's no more videos, cool. But the rental industry started a lot because of his involvement.
This is incredible.
And so we had movies in our house all over the place, hundreds of movies in our house. So I always had an interest in being part of movie making. It was always very interesting. And then in high school, I took a videography class, where we learned how to edit movies and we learned how to film movies and we learned how to write movies. So like in high school, I'd say that's where it was. But I was always performing in plays in middle school and stuff like that. I was always the lead in all of like the plays, like Oliver Twist, I was Oliver. And in Grease, I played one of the T-Birds. So like growing up, I was just always in it.
What was your first role you played? Do you remember?
Ever?
Yeah.
I think it was Grease in summer camp or West Side Story. One summer it was Grease, one summer it was West Side Story. I think it was Grease. I was one of the T-Birds. I actually have a photo. Oh my God, okay. I have a photo. Do you remember the T-Birds? Have you ever seen Grease?
You know?
No.
You've never seen Grease?
You?
Yeah, I did.
With John Travolta.
No, I don't.
Do you know the movie at all? I cannot believe it. I feel like it's like the most American movie.
We're gonna
I'm
watch
sorry.
it together.
I'm sorry. I have to say.
It's one of my top
All right,
movies.
Grease is like the original, like big time, not the original, but like it was a 1970s musical with John Travolta, young John Travolta. And he played
He's
like
just
this
so sexy
grease
over there,
head.
just like.
And it was about like falling in love with this new girl at school.
Okay.
This is like the same type of like Cry Baby, like a kinda like a stylish wise. Like
I never
with this
saw
all,
it.
like,
Yeah, it was slick back hair, leather jacket, the whole thing.
yeah, it's like a bad boys. Like I don't know, it just that.
Okay,
vibe,
okay. It's
nice
a story. It's
movie.
just a
I
story
love
of
it.
my life. Like when someone says, "Oh, have you watched this?" and I'm like, "Nope."
All right, Grease is one of the most American
Yeah.
classic movies of all
Yeah.
time.
Okay. Good. I'll make a
And
note for.
You have to watch that and West Side Story.
Okay. Okay.
West
Got
Side
it.
Story is also like a classic tale of American cinema.
So just on a little bit of a side note, I think it would be interesting. Do you remember any like role you played in a school or like kindergarten that was a highlight, of your childhood?
This is gonna be something that I really don't like to tell people, but okay, so I hate yellow color. I would never wear yellow color ever again in my life because I was 6 years old. I wanted to be a Christmas tree. Yes. I wanted to be a Christmas tree, and they decided that I'm gonna be a banana. So I've been a banana in a Christmas.
Did you have any lines? Did you sing at all?
Yeah, I was singing together with a Christmas tree.
In a banana outfit?
In a banana costume. Since then, I am not eating bananas, and I'm not like wearing any
You don't
yellow
eat
color.
bananas because of this?
Or I don't like bananas.
That's how trauma manifests in an adulthood. You're
Can we get a banana here and just like have you like conquer this fear right now?
I'm sorry. Like this is
Wow.
yeah. I didn't know that I'm gonna tell this story. This is the worst story ever. Okay, your turn.
Mine is even, I think, like, it's pretty funny. I've played quite a lot in kindergarten and school, but there is one that I remember that was a highlight of my acting childhood, which was, so it was also some Christmas play in the like kindergarten, I think, or like early school, and I was oh my God, how it's called in English? The Sніжинка?
Snowflake.
Yes, thank you. Snowflake. So I was a snowflake in some play about Christmas, and they were say that
The most fancy role.
you should wear like white and and my mom was like, hey, yeah, let's find you a white dress, and I came up to like this not audition but like practicing, and I was wearing everything brown, and they were like, why are you wearing
It was
brown?
Chernobyl snowflake.
Almost. It was like, why are you wearing brown? You're a snowflake. And I'm like, are you stupid? I'm a snowflake, but I fall on the ground, and when I fall on the ground, I'm not white anymore. No. That's why I'm a brown snowflake. Are you idiots? Do you know like how the world works? And my parents were like, oh my God. And and the teachers in the kindergarten school, they were like, oh fuck. And
so realistic.
And I was like, and there was no way to like, and they're like, hey, but you will be so pretty in white. And I was like, I got almost hysterical saying like, no, that doesn't work like that. Are you stupid? Like they're white only for like, a minute while they fall down, and the play is like 40 minutes. That doesn't make sense.
Hilarious. You're very forward thinking with your character. It's like, where's my
She's a
character
deep
in the future? That's next level acting, I gotta tell you.
Always wear
It's
a
method acting.
Yeah, that's real method. You probably like laid on the ground for a bit, felt the snow. That's how you gotta do it. Good job.
Have you ever felt shy? Like actually shy, like being red just because you said something on a stage, or you've been like, I don't know, or you've been joking something very much radically, and after you stop yourself being kind of like rude or whatever. Have you ever been shy about what you're saying on a stage?
On the stage?
Yes, not in the personal.
I feel, okay, on stage, I feel nervous,
Okay.
but I don't feel shy to the point where I don't feel like I can do it, but I always feel nervous. In real life, there's a couple of situations that I'm in that I feel shy, but nothing performance-wise. I feel like I can always work with the nerves.
Nice.
Okay.
I have a follow-up question because also I think it comes from personal fears.
Okay.
But it's very hard to try something new, you know, and most of us are scared to, even subconsciously, like even if we do it, it's hard, especially if it involves, you know, you being in front of other people, to be like embarrassed or like, oh, you suck. Like when you try something new, especially if it's something like a performance, you always suck in the beginning, you know, like it over time you build like confidence and skill and everything. So how did you have that experience when you sucked and you had to perform to like get better and better? And also like, how did you overcome it? Because for me, for example, I talking about personal experience, but I would say that I could be scared to start doing something because I know that I will be bad at it, you know, and you need to overcome this time while you're bad at it so you can start to get good at it. And I think like in some things that it's your skill, like I don't know, if you learn coding, it's okay because no one really can see how you suck, you know, but if it involves performance, you actually like allow people to see while you're still
How
getting
suck are
better, you know?
Yeah.
Right, 1.5.
Yeah.
I think it depends on the thing that I've pursued, but like I just started taking hip hop dance classes again, and I'm terrible in that class, but I do it because it's fun, and I know that I'm gonna suck, but I'll get better. In stand-up, the first show I ever did, I can't believe that I actually got on the show. It was in New York. I think I was like 19 or 20. I was in college. And I remember calling this comedy club to try to get a spot. And this woman who was booking the show like just put me on a primetime slot. It was like a Thursday, 8 p.m. show. I'll never forget it. And I crushed. I killed it. It was like the best 5 minutes. I had hysterical laughing top to bottom, I swear to God. And I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna do this all the time and kill it. And then of course, like you keep doing shows and you suck all the time. I suck most of the time. But that first show made me feel confident that I could do it.
Nice.
Because I got good responses.
Yes. I think that primer experience you get is so important. Like it's either, like I think it's the first time. Like if it's bad, you're like, oh, maybe I shouldn't do it. And if it's good, it fuels your confidence. And then even if you're bad afterwards, you're like, yeah, I know I can do it. So I'll keep practicing.
I think for me at least, there's always needs to be a good balance of like what I want to do with a little bit of positive affirmation. Because if there's something that I'm doing and I'm just like not getting good results, or I'm not seeing anything progress, I can definitely get down on myself and feel like, well, maybe I just suck at this. Maybe I'm just terrible at it. But if you get like all I need is like a little bit of progress shown on the board, and then I'm like, great, I'm gonna keep going.
Yeah, that's a fantastic attitude. I think it's really cool because, like, personally, I'm so fascinated by people who perform to audience, especially like live, where like with the podcast, we're like, well, we don't cut stuff actually, but we always like have this opportunity,
Yeah, we always know that we can just like talk shit, and after police gonna come, so it's better to cut it off.
Yeah, I mean, we don't like just we don't really cut a lot from our episodes, but we have this opportunity. But when you do things live, you're like, it is what it is,
Yeah, there's.
I
like
would do it publicly. I would be happy. Like I can imagine people just sitting somewhere.
We'll do it at some point. Like, give my introverted ass is not ready for that. So,
what's making good comedian?
Tell us here and now.
I think a really good comedian finds the funny in everything.
Okay.
It doesn't matter what the topic is. It could be something wildly offensive. It could be something that's so hot button, but if they can find a way to make that funny, I find them to be the most genius form of comedian.
Do you have your favorite comedians? Like, for example, like two of existing or two of the dead one.
I have always loved Aziz Ansari. He is, do you know Parks and Recreation? That was an NBC show like 10 years ago.
I need to just.
He's this Indian guy. He's really short and fiery and very excitable, and I think that he like performs with his whole body, and that's really exciting.
Oh wow.
And Adam Devine is another guy who I really like. He's from the show Workaholics that was on a while ago too, and he's also like another guy who just like uses every inch of him to tell a joke or to like tell a story, and I love guys who use everything to make a joke. You know?
I like this guy, but I'm not like 100%. That Ricky Gervais?
Ricky Gervais, yeah, he's
Yeah, obviously. I just can't pronounce his last name. I'm sorry. I also lived in the UK, so kind of, British humor.
British humor, I think, is the best. Also,
I don't think. Sorry, just to finish this thought. He could be too much for me, but that I don't. I think he's he's incredible comedian. It's just a matter of taste. But he said one thing that kind of, I don't even remember where I heard that, but I remember it so hard, that there is no topic you cannot joke about. You can joke about everything. It's something you said. You can make anything, funny despite the controversy or how, whatever the topic is. It's about your skill, and it's about, how you make a joke. But there should not, like, his whole point, I think he said it in multiple forms in a lot of interviews, that there should not be taboo topics to joke about. Like, that ruins the whole spirit of comedy, the whole idea of comedy, the whole, even the nature how comedy evolved. And I do support that statement very much. I think it all comes to quality of the joke and not the topic of the joke.
I think that's why comedy is having a bit of a renaissance right now. Mm-hmm. It's because there's been a really big pendulum swing, making sure everything is politically correct right now and making sure everyone feels okay. I think you see it in everything right now, and it's kind of boring. I think that there's a lot of things that are going on entertainment-wise that are a bit boring. I just don't think they're taking risks. And everyone's loving comedy right now because they're the ones that are just saying it and they're going for it. And you go into this room and you hear someone say something and you're like, oh, I think that way all the time. Someone got to say it. And it's fun. There's a little danger to it right now that I think people are loving.
Just coming back to, that was my, that's what I wanted really to talk on the podcast, because, for example, right now there is a, full-scale war in Ukraine still going on, very unfortunately. And it gave a lot of burst to stand-up. So there is two parts of that. Just a little bit on our history. There are a lot of stand-ups, comedians that were watched in Ukraine. They were Russians, like Russian shows that were quite popular in Ukraine because most.
We had a kind of shared television, unfortunately, for some years.
Yeah, we used to have it very shared. Then obviously in the last decade a lot less. But YouTube, a lot of people watched Russian YouTube, and kind of stand-up was the comedy in terms of how much money in that business, how much development in that business. It was more in Russia than in Ukraine. But with the war, because almost all people said fuck you to all the Russian content, thanks God, but it gave so much burst of comedy, Ukrainian comedy. Oh my God, for two reasons. First of all, we closed that market that was open, and the second one, where it's such a terrible thing. There is no even word that could describe how scary it is on every level, personal, economical, social, health, whatever. It's so hard for people to cope with that humor becomes that glue that kind of, holds people together, holds their mental systems together. We had stand-ups from bunkers on YouTube. I'll share with you. Yeah. I think some of them even have subtitles and translations.
They are crazy.
They are crazy. It's fantastic. It's it holds the human spirit. So I wanted to ask you actually two questions. One is if you can share a memorable experience where you felt like you had a positive impact on the crowd or small big crowd that in your joke, and then if you can remember some of your most controversial jokes, like that
when people are questioning, are they stupid or are you stupid, it's like, I'm kidding right now.
I mean more like something that people laugh and you joke
but
about
feeling
it,
uncomfy.
people laugh and you all feel like you're going to burn in hell for that joke.
I luckily don't have those kinds of jokes.
Or you think that you don't?
I don't think, most of the things that I talk about are about like personal stories that have happened to me or funny situations I've been in.
Mexico.
You name it, So I can't say I've ever said anything that like touched on something that was like a little too hot button, because I'm not like going to those territories. I'm not like making jokes about like, I don't know, like
Abortions.
Yeah, I'm not talking about like different like genders or different like societies or whatever. Like I'm just goofing kind of like on me and my little bubble. I can't think of a specific joke that like tore down the house. Are you asking about like a specific time I just like made a bunch of people laugh?
I don't know, maybe you just like got some messages when people have been like saying that you've been offensive or you've been attacking them or you've been like an asshole to them just because you've been on the stage and just making fun of them straight.
Or some people like really laughed and some people were like, ooh, that's maybe too much.
I don't know if I've ever said anything like that. I don't know. I once lost a job on a commercial because I made a sketch comedy video that was like a little too risque for the brand that was hiring me. That was controversial for them. I didn't think it was that big of a deal, but like.
What did you say in there?
I didn't say anything. It was kind of a dumb video, but it was so stupid. This was like 10 years ago. Me and a friend are doing a sketch comedy video. And in the video, the camera's like chest up, and you can't see our hands. You can just see the movement of our hands. And it looks like we're jerking each other off the whole video. And we're talking about like things that sound sexual in nature. And it just looks like we're like pleasuring each other. And then the reveal in the end is like, we're just like making dinner. And like, it's so stupid now that I think about it out loud. But that was the reveal in the end. You didn't see anything, like there was nothing grotesque. It just like looked like two idiots going like this a bunch from underneath. But we're just like seasoning chicken and like cutting vegetables and doing all this shit. And then.
I think it's pretty funny,
Yeah, but with apparently XYZ brand, the night before I was supposed to do the shoot, I got a terrible phone call that like, Max, you are losing this job because this brand does not want to be affiliated with a jerk. I was like, but you didn't see anything. That's not really me. It's like a sketch. I don't know, whatever.
Did they watch it in the end, or they be just like?
Maybe they stopped like. I was like, but did they watch the whole video? Because they would have seen it as a little different,
I don't know. I think it's funny, to be honest.
I've had to delete the video, but I'll find
Ooh, risky.
it. Yeah, whatever.
Aww.
Okay, I do have a lot of questions according to the way of how people think about comedians. Because, like, I do love stereotypes. I think this is something which is showing everything about how human think. And the first one stereotype is the comedian is not a job. Because people like, everybody make everybody laugh. You should not even prepare for that. You can just do, I don't know, like have a book with the jokes and just make them laugh by remembering. So it's not actually a job.
It's a job. I think there are aspects of the job that are really hard, and there are aspects of the job that are really easy. And I think it depends on who you are.
Like in any job.
Like any job, yeah.
But for how long if you do have a stand-up for like 20 minutes, for how long you're preparing?
Hours and days.
This is like my question, because I do understand that, because you need just to actually prep, you need just to understand like what you're going to be talking about. Depends on like how human going to be reacting around you. But from other side, I just remember at school we had the small books about jokes, and we've been trying just to be cool, so we've been like memorizing some of them just to be cool at school.
Yeah.
So this is not that.
You have to workshop it too. You have to do it and then be like, oh, that didn't sound right. Let me try it again at another show and put that there instead. And like you have to keep doing it and keep drilling it. Like I don't think it ever ends.
No.
You know?
I actually think, again, because I'm a little bit introverted, that's why for me, yeah, I mean, yeah, no.
Yeah, but I don't think every stand-up is an extroverted
No,
person.
I don't think either, but I think it's a very hard job in terms of hours and hours of preparation, and then there is no, like, I don't know, if you code, and I'm simplifying things, but then there is an input and output, and if you get to some stage of coding and you use a certain infrastructure, or like with a lot of things, you start to understand, like, the output is predictable. With the performance, the output is semi-predictable because you can train and you can practice and you can, you can be really good, but then there is a crowd, that could react differently and that could have different dynamic. And I think the hardest part in stand-up is in this type of, performance, and I'm very curious about your opinion, is to hold the crowd. It's like to have this dynamic kind of, people they come and they just come from their job or whatever. They kind of come to love, but they're not switched immediately to this, mode. And then you need to kind of warm them up, and then you need to bring the energy up, and then you need to keep the energy up, and you need to be very careful because one bad line could drop the energy really flat, and then so all of this,
And you're gonna be sued like a Louis C.K.
Yeah, or like this.
Well, luckily I'm not doing anything that crazy yet.
No, what did you just say? Yeah.
Yet.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Nice.
it depends on where you are in the show. Like, for my show specifically, like, I'm hosting. So it's my job to make sure that everyone is very excited to see the rest of the show after me. That's a huge
And you do a great
role.
job.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Both of us, we're not just talking to Max. We actually went to a couple
there.
of shows.
We saw
Yeah,
that.
so we're no.
We cried there. We loved there.
Yeah, we lived there.
We're gonna talk about the stereotypes later. So just coming back to your show, can you just tell us about your show, them about the show, because we know that.
Yes, thank you. So I throw a monthly comedy party called Backdoor Comedy. And I call it a comedy party for a specific reason. To me, it's like the anti-comedy club show, in that it's at these pop-up locations like warehouse spaces or art galleries or these event spaces, and there's a social element to it that I felt was always lacking at a typical comedy show. I was getting quite bored with the typical comedy club experience, in that you would walk in and you just sit down and you would just be waiting for like a half an hour. And you talk to maybe the friend next to you, but that's it, you're just sitting. Then there's like a 2-drink minimum, the lights would go dark, you'd see the show, and then you'd leave. I thought it was missing something. So I thought, all right, let's do like a fun happy hour first. Let's have a DJ, let's get music, let's get people hanging out and talking to each other. That to me was important. And let's get a food element to it too. All right, let's get a food truck. So now there's like this happy hour where people are just hanging. Maybe you came with your friends, maybe you met somebody, who knows? I'm hoping there's a bit of a hang though. And then the show starts, and I think the show is better being a quick show. And then afterwards there's a bit of an after party and people can hang, whatever you want to do. But to me, that was like the through line. It was like a comedy show mixed with a social hang. And that's what I think makes Backdoor Comedy awesome and unique.
It's complex, it's fun, it's nice. Also it's cool just to meet people who there without even planning just to go there. I just met some friends over there, and he was sitting straight in here, and I was like, okay, I didn't even know that he has a sense of humor. So
I'm glad you found that at Backdoor Comedy.
Yeah,
I like that.
I also really like the fact that sometimes I love that you do this transition period, between people living their lives, being at work or doing something, and then they come to the show, and then there is some time where they can hang out, have a couple of drinks, maybe have some food, so they're warmed up for the show and ready to laugh, rather than still thinking on the back of their mind, oh, where did I park, or oh, I had to send that report to work, or I'm just sitting and waiting for a comedy to make me laugh, which is, there is always this, it's even when you're with the friends, when you meet each other, and in an hour, there is a very different dynamic, because when you meet each other, you're still like somewhere else with your mind. And then while you're communicating, you build this energy between you. And then, usually the best part of hanging out with your friends is in a couple of hours, couple of drinks, everyone's laughing, everyone gets like the same kind of vibe. So I think you managed really well to recreate this kind of atmosphere. So, we enjoyed your show really much.
All right, you know what? I think all the men in this room right now need to say, my chakra, my choice. Men, let's do it. 1, 2, 3. My chakra. Excellent, guys. I guess it really is not our choice.
It's similar to the structure of a Broadway play. If you were to go see a musical on Broadway, there's a reason why the play starts with a big musical number at the top of the show. It is to kind of warm everybody up for the transition from out in the street before you came in to now you're in the theater. And it's a way to kind of like snap them into the play. So you're met with this big musical dance number, it awakens your senses, right? You just came from your job, you just came from the subway, or you just came from the street, and now you're in the theater, and this kind of like slaps you into the play and warms you up to get ready to watch what you're gonna watch for the next hour and a half. So that's kind of why I felt the happy hour was necessary. It's because that to me is the top of the show to get you warmed up for what you're gonna see.
I think this is a nice like a format of event, because you still like give people a space to adapt to the space and to the way how you're just like telling the story, because it's not. I've been in a stand-ups, I told you like 2 times before, and that was like a solo stand-up. That was kind of boring, like just very boring. And you do have people who just coming to you the same like all the time, because you're even just making your jokes about the people from the previous time. And I think this tells a lot about you and about the quality. Because people are going there for just like
I love that, thank you.
For our listeners, there was a really, really fun moment at Max's show where you were joking about the guy and about him sucking at dating because you had some previous stuff like linked to St. Valentine's Day or something like that.
I'm just gonna put it here.
Yeah, we can if we find it. And like Max was just grilling the guy so much, and then after like few minutes of like being grilled, it turned out that he was actually like in the audience coming for the second time. I think that was incredible. Like it was so good.
It's happy, and he was so cool about it too.
Yeah, he was cool about it. Yeah, that's a good audience. That tells a lot about also your audience.
My favorite part about what the comedians say who do the show afterwards is they love the room. Because a lot of them say, oh, the West Side is really tough. Like, the Santa Monica shows are always really difficult for them. They feel like the crowd's a little bit different or tougher to please. And they come and do my show and they're like, wow, I cannot believe how giving and how attentive and how into it everyone is. I don't know. I've tried to curate like a great audience. I don't just like, I'll reach out to people who I want to be at the show, I want the right people there. Because it's a community too. That's how I feel.
Yep.
So I want to come back to stereotypes next. Sorry, I'm not going to push too hard, but just a little bit. So do you remember a time when you actually feel like you made a positive impact with your performance on someone? It shouldn't be like a big, maybe just a friend who had a tough time, or you delivered some message that like you felt like the person or the group of people, they light up after your performance and you really felt like you did something good.
I feel that way kind of all the time, like whether I'm performing at a show or like whether I'm just like hanging with my friends. Like I know that I can always help someone with just my ability to make them laugh. Like, I always trust my ability to make somebody laugh. Maybe it's to also to a fault, because I usually always lead with my sense of humor. Whenever I meet somebody new, if I've gone on a date, or if I make new friends, or I'm in a new group, I kind of lean into the fact that I'm funny, and it's how I mostly feel recognized. And if I don't let that shine through, I kind of feel invisible also. So maybe I push it too much, but I know that like I can always make somebody smile and laugh. And I'm proud of that. I think it's an awesome skill.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Especially, like we live in a well, look, like we live in such a complex world. I would say that a lot of
We live in the world, and the world is sucked right now. So
the world is on fire.
every single day there's like a new word protest popping up. Like how you can be like mentally safe without the comedy.
Nah, it's my friend and I were recently joking. Like we were talking about physics and multiverses, and then
She's usually just talking about that.
and then my friend was like, yeah, there is, and she was like, sorry for a topic. She was like, I really like the idea of multiverse. And I'm like, yeah, it kind of warms up myself. And she was like, yeah, I feel like that maybe there is some other universe where, like we're successful and rich and everything. And I was like, yeah, and we have a stable mental system. And she was like, no, that universe does not exist. I'm like, okay.
It's not possible to be healthy.
It's not. So yeah, we live in such a...
But it can help people. I think that it can.
help a lot.
Actually, oh my God, the last show I did, I forgot to say this. So the last show a couple weeks ago, when I made the joke about the couple that was chakra shaming each other, so I know them kind of tangentially through my Burning Man community. You know them too?
I know them personally because they're the friends of that friend who came, and I was like, I was surprised that he has a sense of humor.
Okay.
Sorry, I love you so much, but like,
You're
no.
being mean to Rob right now. So I vaguely know them through my extended Burning Man community. Okay?
That's what
And I ran into him at a party, and he said, "Thank you so much." I said, "For what?" You guys were just like, "So thank you," And he was saying something along the lines of like, it was kind of a funny moment for me and her because it allowed us to like reflect on certain aspects of our relationship that we were going through.
Aww.
And it was like kind of funny to explore that through that joke. And that was the first time anyone's like said that to me, where I was like, oh my God, like I maybe helped someone.
Goosebumps.
Like
That's
for me,
cool.
it's just like, I hope that you laughed and forgot about your pain in the ass job. Like that's my goal. I've done my job. If you got to sit in a show and for 10 minutes forgot that like your boyfriend sucks or like your job is annoying or whatever the hell, Yeah. But that was the first time I got like a genuine like compliment about his life. I was like, wow, this is great. Like this is so fun,
This is very cool. I think stereotypes.
I'm still like reflecting on that show because I remember that I came there with a friend who's like a new friend who like entrepreneur, my colleague, and we've been just so tired after the work, and we've been like exhausted by like making my financial model and talking about the startups and raising, and we came there just to laugh, and he was like, and he's not from here, he's from Florida, so he didn't show that side of him to have an actually sense of humor. So this is nice to also check the people on.
Did he have fun?
That. Yeah.
Actually, I think it's a very good. I mean,
It's a nice market for like having these people
I think
around.
so, and also like how people react, because we already touched the topic of controversial jokes, or like some jokes that touch different sexes or different movements or like something like that. And some people, like especially nowadays, I'm sorry I'm going to say that, there are people that get offended by like everything.
It's crazy.
And they get
You should sit at
offended.
home.
And they just get offended
Please.
by things existing, not like anything, touching their life or like being a part of their daily life or like addressed to them directly, but just being offended by, something. Just someone said it and you're like, oh.
Yeah.
Like there is a meme about someone sitting in the 3am on the laptop and was like, darling, are you coming to bed? No, people on the internet are like doing wrong things, like all of that. So I think it's a good marker if you don't know someone very well and you come and you like you might not like the joke, but you don't need to be offended by the joke. It
That would
doesn't
be
have
actually a
anything to
nice
do with
thing.
you.
I'm sorry for like a first day. If you would like just to test the person, just like invite them to like a comedy show.
Actually, oh my God, wait a minute.
Such a good idea.
Back in New York, I took a girl on a first date to see an improv show.
Okay. Was it
And-
good? Like, did you know that it was going to be good before?
No, you never know. It's improv. Like it's
You
totally
know,
made up on
because
the
you know
spot.
the person. Like, if you know the
I-
capacity of the person, the brain of the person, the processing of the person, so you can do it. Especially you, knowing for so much. Like,
improv is still improv.
I've seen really, really good improvisers do really bad improv. Like I've seen all kinds of improv.
Okay.
So I take this girl first date. I took her to this improv show, and it was fine. I remember laughing pretty loudly at an abortion joke, and she immediately said, "Hey, I have to go to the bathroom really quick. Where's the bathroom?" I was like, "Oh, I think it's like back there." And she gets up and she never came back.
Oh my god.
So the show ends, and I'm like, "Oh, maybe she got sick. Like, what's going on?" Texting her, nothing. And I'm like, "Oh, she left." And I was like, "What did I do?" I think I laughed a little bit too loud at that joke. I don't know if I did, but she did not come back. And so I sent her a Venmo request for half of the check that night because if you're gonna stay for half the date, you're paying half the bill. All right, babe? That's the deal. If you wanna stay for the whole date, I'll pay for the whole first date.
This is
But if you are leaving 50% into a date, you are paying for 50% of the fucking check. And that's a rule.
I would like just to see her face afterwards. I'm sorry.
Fuck her, I don't care. You could have waited 20 more minutes and then been like, "Hey man, like I'm not feeling it, I wanna go." But you can tell that she left, she can't wait to tell her friends, I left, I didn't come back.
I think it just like, you know, there are some things that are, I don't know, again, word in English. It's like, you know, it's just rude. You know, if someone
rude.
if someone invited you and like, even if you don't like it, I don't know.
I have something to say.
Yeah, just,
Was she American?
Yes.
Okay.
What was it?
I do think that most of Americans are still under the pressure of the Christianity. And we talked about that in some of episodes before, and we talked about it in the private life as well. Like, realistically, if you just like thinking through all of Americans, even right now in our generation, if you had the religious parents, what are you going to feel after somebody who you like gonna laugh an abortion joke?
We're in New York City,
That's the
okay?
way.
Maybe she had an abortion, maybe she didn't. That's not the point. I'm also taking a wild guess that that's why she left. I have no idea. But she went to an improv show. Like,
Text him.
I don't know. Who the hell knows? If I could track her down, I'll ask her, but I don't even know her name.
I'm so curious what the joke was now. I'm sorry.
It was improv, like it was nothing. I don't even remember what the hell it was.
Okay, the question is, how does it feel to date a comedian?
I've never dated a comedian before, so you have
Never?
to ask the comedians you have to ask the people who have dated me.
Okay.
I've never dated a comedian before.
Because they know that you know that they're not funny.
I just no.
thing.
I don't know. I
There's less female comedians, much less. No, statistically, much less female.
You said that we're
comedians.
not going to be talking about diversity.
We're not going to
Please
talk
forget
about.
that.
We're not going to talk
Not
about it.
today.
It's a fact.
I've never known any. I haven't really been around enough female comedians that I'd want to date. So I don't know. I've never really had those situations happen to me before. I've dated other fellow actors before, but comedians and actors typically don't like to date each other.
We all are actors, so.
But I don't. Yeah, so talented. Yeah, great. I don't know. I would be totally fine dating a comedian or an actor. I think that's totally fun. I think people get like a little too into this notion of like, oh, like, well, I'm already crazy and unstable because I live this crazy life. I wouldn't want someone else to be living that crazy, unstable life. But like, I'm not like crazy and unstable, so like, I don't
More
care.
stereotypes about the crazy and stable life. So the first one is, there is a stereotype that people are like, usually expecting you just to be funny all the time. Is that or not?
Yes, and I don't like that. But as I said before, I'm kind of guilty of that because I always lead with my humor. And I'm always making it known that I'm funny. And so what kind of annoys me sometimes is that like when I don't want to be the funny guy and I'm just quiet, people think something's wrong. I'm just like, no, I just don't feel like playing that role right now. So it's a funny balance because I purposely want you to know that about me. So it's an expectation that that's who I'm going to be all the time, you know? Mm-hmm. So I don't feel the need to be that person all the time. Because I'm sensitive and quiet too, you know?
Yeah. What's about having no serious side or kind of like not having a serious side at all? Do you have it?
Are you asking me if I have a serious side?
Yeah.
I do have a serious side. And I think that if you're... Everybody has a serious side. You don't have a serious side?
I do, but not everybody. Some people just one-sided. Like most of the people, they're just one-sided. They're basic. Sorry. But this is
disagree so much.
There's a delicate balance.
It's just more like how do you express yourself through your personality, just based on the norms of the society. How you I don't know, reflect. How you just like projecting stuff. How you mirroring stuff. It's more about like one side. Because but about the comedians, like sometimes you just like think this like a person actually has some serious can you be like even in relationships.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Just because a comedian is a comedian and their job is to be funny doesn't mean that they are not serious or have a serious side. How they express these thoughts through their work is humorous. But so many comedians are like ridiculously serious people in how they view the world. They're just good at expressing it in a funny way, you know? So I think that not all comedians just live this life of being like carefree and funny and goofy all the time, you know? Just like people think most actors are extroverted people. Most actors are ridiculously shy.
Yes, and yes, that's what I'm saying. This is a stereotype because I think that it's like much deeper than, for example, like I do remember the Eternal Sunshine, and I remember this. I am not sure this is quite a thing, but still, I read it in a post somewhere about Jim Carrey and
our source of information, you know, somewhere.
Wikipedia was really helpful.
No, we don't know. Wikipedia is amazing.
Who was it? It was
Jim Carrey.
Michael Gondry. I think this is the name of the movie maker.
You movie maker.
So when he met Jim Carrey at the moment he was in the moment of his like episode of depression, and he said like, "Fuck, you look so beautiful. Just keep it up." And Jim Carrey in one of his interviews he said like, "This like industry is fucked. Like how?" So he was in his depression and he stayed for this depression for this movie. Because he needed to have the same thing. For example, like, do you remember the recent death of Chandler from Friends, of Matthew Carey? Mm-hmm. He was like one of the funniest guys in Friends. He was always making jokes in TV show, but he died. He was alcoholic and he died from overdose. From that, what I know.
Yeah, these guys have. Chris Farley is one of the funniest people of my childhood, and he had horrible drug problems, and a lot of these people are very sad inside and they use humor to kind of cope and to fill a void. But like every artist is filling some sort of a void. Like I don't think that people go into this because they had like a perfect upbringing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think there's a need for some sort of expression and some sort of like affirmation in some degree all over the scale, you know?
I agree, and I also wanted to add about like serious side that I think it all comes down to, you know, how successful you are in your job. You can't, I think it relates to anything you do. It's impossible to be successful at something over time. I'm not talking about, you know, TikTok overnight success, without having that serious side. By that we mean, you know, disciplined, organized, you know, putting effort. Like you can't be joking around, being goofy, and just, you know, be a successful performer just because of that. Sure. You mean you can have those episodes, or you can be like, you know, easygoing person, but anything substantial requires effort, and you know, comedy is not an exception. So I guess, you know, it makes sense where the stereotypes come from, but I think when it comes to, because to me, and again, very different industry, haven't done that, like the good stand-up or the good performance comes out of perfection. So the best, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I'm very curious as well, the best spontaneous performance or the best impros comes from perfecting the skill, which requires so much discipline, so much hard work, that you
So
dedication,
much time. It's
preparation.
a time and energy. Everything what we have is a time and energy, and you're still like spending a lot of time, and people are thinking this is an easy job or something.
Oh no, I
It's
think
They're good at their job if they make it look easy. That's the best
Yes.
part. If it looks easy, they're good at their job. That's how I feel.
Yeah.
it's same with like ballet dancers. You look at the ballet, and they're just like
Ballet or belly dancers?
ballet.
Ballet. I thought you meant belly
belly
dancers. I'm like, yeah, those belly dancers are pretty good, let me tell you.
But even like any type of dance, you look at them and you feel like like their body is just so light and so flexible, and it all looks so effortless. Oh my God, there's so much.
Struggling so much since like a very young age.
Yeah,
And I was competing about just putting the broken glass inside of their like a shoes
oh my
or
God,
something.
nah.
I heard so much stories
Yeah,
about that.
yeah.
No freaking way.
Have you, like, just coming back to stereotypes, have you had an experience when you met someone from the industry in the broader sense, like other performers, and you had certain type of thinking about them, and then it turned out that that was completely wrong and different?
Specifically in comedy?
Maybe like acting, comedy, just performance industry.
Yeah, of course. Like, I know like everyone says like no judgment, but like we all have like ideas in our head the second we meet somebody, and you're pleasantly surprised sometimes by like people who you're like, oh, this person doesn't look like they're gonna be funny at all, and they're hilarious. And then sometimes you see people what?
I had the same thing about the guy with the cats on your stand-up, because I was like, this is like it's not gonna be good, and he was awesome.
Yeah,
So,
some people pleasantly surprise you, and vice versa. Some people you're like, oh, this guy looks like he's gonna be so funny. Look how silly he looks, and he's like dead, But you feel about everything. I feel like it's specific to not just stand-up, but
Yeah. You get some impression of someone, and then it turns out to be, right or wrong.
that's how I want to make people feel. Like I want to surprise people too. However they think of me, I want to either like affirm it if it's positive, and then change it if it's negative. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But about the stereotypes also, are people around you or your friends are expecting you just to have jokes for all the time about like, if you telling to people that you're a magician, they're like asking you just to show something?
My good friends, no.
Okay.
People who I kind of know, yeah.
And what do you do? Especially when you're pissed.
I'm like, I'm not working right now. Like I'm not on the clock, you know what I mean? Like my good friends like don't ask for me to like do a trick, you know what I mean? But sometimes it's needed. Like if you're at like a party and maybe something's going on, you know where you need to fit in. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Also, I know when to not. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. That's part of it too. Like socially learning how to read the room has like been a tough skill for me at times. There's times when maybe I don't need to be the loudest guy in the room, or I don't need to be the funny guy in the room. Maybe I can just be like the background character because the room doesn't need what I have to offer right now. Mm-hmm. That's something that I've really had to pay attention to.
Actually, I would love to, maybe off camera to dive into that topic, because it's so interesting. Because I think like we're talking right now for already an hour, about performance and actors and stand-up comedy and this industry, but reading a room and knowing where to click in or like be a little bit on the sideline is such an important skill, even in like what we do for a day job. Like we go to a lot of meetings with a lot of different people, and then also sometimes in those meetings the dynamic could be very weird because some people don't read the room, and they like jumping with something that is irrelevant, or they stay quiet
every day.
or they
I'm
stay
sorry, it's painful.
or they stay quiet where like kind of the room expect them to do or say something. So why don't we, like, I'm so curious, I know it's come from the practice and doing the shows. It's very hard to say how do you learn this skill, but
Empathy.
it's a tough one. Yeah, empathy.
Yeah, I'm learning that now. Like, I'm not a pro at it. You know what it is? I have some people in my life who I see not great at reading the room. So when I see them it makes me take a step back and be like, oh wow, so this is what it looks like.
Oh, I see.
It's helpful for me to see it, you know?
Yeah.
I'm unfortunately someone who doesn't know that he's like crossed a boundary until he's already crossed it. Sometimes I lack that all the time, most of the time. Some of the time I lack that foresight. And so when I see other people doing it, I'm like, oh wow, is that what I look like? Oh my God. And so that's how I've learned. And
self-reflection, though.
I think this whole thing has been very self-reflective, guys. I think that it really is helpful in that I don't know how to better read the room. I think it's just like sometimes paying attention a little bit more. I got really great advice from an acting teacher one time. It was so tough to hear, but it was after a scene that I did in class. It was terrible. And he kind of like broke me down a little bit, and I needed it. And he said, Max, you need to learn to have a quiet conversation with yourself. And I said, I have no idea what that means. And he says, good, then get off the stage. And what he was telling me was, yeah, go figure that out. You know, like learn how to sit for a moment in the stillness. Because I'm very noisy, like I'm a very loud person. I always feel like I need to fill the space. I kind of get uncomfortable if I'm not like leading the charge in some way. And so learning to have a quiet conversation with myself, I think really means sitting back, observing, paying attention, and then coming in and not leading with me, you know?
What's about being loud? Is it something about the compensating?
Sure.
Like, what for? Like, what are you compensating?
The need to, oh my.
We got to a therapy side of our podcast, you
I'm
know?
curious. I can say what I'm compensating by doing this.
I think it comes from wanting to be seen and to feel seen and heard. And not that I don't, not that I feel invisible, but yeah, I feel like there's always a need to, I don't know, there's like a value that I feel like I can present if I am a certain way. And if I'm not that certain way, then I don't demonstrate that value. But it can work, it can backfire sometimes.
Yeah.
You know?
It's very interesting. I think it's such an important skill. And, you know, it talks a lot about like self-reflection and empathy and being able to get a step back, evaluate the surrounding, and then come in. Like, I think, like, I have sometimes issues with that as well, I think, where you like, sometimes want to jump in like a rocket and just, you know, like do the fireworks and all of that. That's so cool, you know, that you came to that and you have this progression. I think you like at your being at your show, you give the feeling that you do read the room quite well, because that, like we already touched that, like the dynamic, because I think also reading like keeping the dynamic or the energy level of the room at certain levels and kind of manage it throughout the show is one, like, I think it's something you do because you kind of, you're a host more than, and then people present, like that's just the nature of the show. So it does feel like you did really well. So it was fun to hear that this is something you worked for through
I would
tough
say
feedback as well.
Yeah, I would say that you're guiding the awakening part, because like sometimes different comedians had the different like styles of connecting with people, and for example, sometimes I don't know how that worked with my mind, but I really don't like a women's poetry. I don't like women's comedy. I am very partially matching with something when they're telling, just complaining about, and that was hard for me to match with these people and the first time when I saw them. But overall, I just felt after you've been just going there and telling a story about the next comedian, that was something I was like awakening again. So how are you choosing your comedians for the show?
Yeah, I choose my comedians based off of if I really like who they are, you know. I don't care about their social media following at all. I mean, it seems like that has a lot of value in this city, but there have been comics on my show that have like had no following, that I really liked who they were. I thought they were funny and they were unique. I definitely try to have an equal balance on the show. I've seen a lot of shows where there's been like all dudes of the same type on the show, and I think that that works against the show, because you need to hear different voices.
Yeah.
You know, I think having a couple of females, because the audience at my shows are predominantly female, so I want to have a couple of females up there for sure, so that they can relate to the people that are talking. I know that if I had a guy on stage just like me, it wouldn't be funny because, well, the audience just heard another guy talk about that same kind of stuff. So I always have a female come up after me, always. That's important. And then I like to have a comic that has some sort of variety. So like I've had the musical comedy guy, I had the magician. He had a tough time that night, but I like seeing the variety. I had one guy in one show do a really funny mimed bit where he had like a puppet. I thought that was really cool to watch.
Puppet?
He had like a puppet and he was like doing some mime. It was very silly. And I like the variety. I think it's fun to watch. Even if you don't like it as an audience member, it snaps you back in for like a bit. You're like, what is this? What's going on here? I just think it takes the attention into a different place.
You know what also cool with having that variety? Because I personally love a very specific type of stand-up. I like very intellectual, something that resonates with some, you know, social political topics. If it's about like women, I would prefer jokes about abortions rather than about boyfriends. So I have something I enjoy. That's why, like, I would watch probably similar stuff. So I really enjoyed your show, and the guy with the music, oh my God, that was just fantastic. Like the skill, the talent, just for our, you know, for our audience. I always want to say users, Jesus Christ.
You're working too hard.
Yeah.
You just go and laugh.
Yeah, so for our audience, there was a guy who did a comedy as a little music show with an instrument and making noises with his voice and mouth, and like it was fantastic. It was funny. Like you can like the humor, you cannot, but the whole skill set, it was, you know, it's a craft. It's so good. So I would never watch it if I, you know, were at your show. I wouldn't Google it. I wouldn't find it on YouTube. I wouldn't subscribe that on Instagram. I wouldn't go to specifically that show because I didn't even know that I would like something like that. And I really enjoy that because that was a variety. Maybe I didn't like that much something else, but then, you know, Pavel would kill me for that. Yeah. So speaking about that, I'm so curious about the process of creation jokes. Like we already touched on that it takes hours and hours of practice, but how you come up with a joke, how you're finding that sweet spot where you're like, oh, I think that would be funny. And then, you know, you start building up on that, or you just have the joke already ready. So how that process look like?
Yeah, I think that having the pressure of having shows coming up has me in creative mode all the time. Like before I started Backdoor Comedy, Backdoor Comedy only started in August, so this is only the 9th time I've done it. I wasn't performing very regularly. And so because I wasn't in that kind of mode, I wasn't really writing a lot of jokes. But now, I'm just like very aware and constantly thinking like, oh, is there something there? Oh, I just like ran into this, I did that. Oh, is there something there? And it's fun, like being in the creative flow, like it's really fun. And I'll start writing out bits by bits and ideas, and then I'll start crafting it and I'll put it together and then I'll really construct it. But it'll really just start with an idea first.
So just making these jokes is making you being focused on like, I don't know, some situations around more than you usually are? Like, are you listening to people more for just like having these insights from the people's conversations, or how?
Good question. Okay. I'm not hyper aware with the goal to make a joke out of this. I'm just kind of living my life and seeing the humor in all of it, or if there's something there. Like I had a conversation with my friend yesterday. We were talking about donating sperm, and like if there's a height requirement for donating sperm.
It's a noble job.
Yeah, I'm sure it's a wonderful job. But the joke, for some reason she was saying like I might be too short to donate sperm. And I'm like, well, that's ridiculous because...
What?
She was making fun of me because I'm short.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And she was saying, Max, you might not be tall enough to donate sperm. And I'm like, but that doesn't make any sense because like I have other great qualities, but because I'm short, like I can't donate sperm. Like I played college football, I have all my hair, like I'm not a psychopath. Like
It's a big one.
Like I have a lot of things that are pretty damn good, but because I am not short enough, like I can't donate sperm. And so I was like, oh, this is also a bit. Like there's something here for sure. So like I wrote that down, and over the next 2 weeks, I'm gonna think about it some more, and maybe I'll try to donate sperm and I'll see what they say, and I'll try to get like a real story out of it. I have no idea. But like that's how a joke happens. And you're laughing right now, and there's not even a real joke yet. So clearly there's something there.
So you're going into the experience and you're actually exploring that. That's so cool.
You know, it's like for me, for example, it's hilarious because I feel like in Ukraine we don't have that, but since I moved to
Sperm donation?
no, we do have sperm donation, and you know, but like this thing about like being short or tall, like in the US, I'm very bad in feet. I don't understand that. I'm, sorry, centimeters still.
You have a different measurement.
Yeah, we have a different, like we have a metric system, in our head. I'm already good with miles and Fahrenheit, but it's, feet is the next stage. It's the next level.
True.
But like everyone in the US, I've noticed, again, from some, Instagram jokes and stuff on social media, that like there's so much stuff going around guys being short or tall, it's such a important thing. Oh, if he's like 5'5", I think 5'5" is not tall, right?
Technically, no.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know what it means, but I just remember this name.
What are you trying to say?
I'm trying to say that in this culture there is so much focus on men being short or tall, or maybe it's in California. I don't know. That this joke is so funny. Like in that way, it makes a lot of context here. I don't know. Like in Ukraine, I don't remember people being so focused on exact height of men, which is I've noticed here from just being on social media.
I can't say anything about it because I think it's like our personalities, because we care about the personalities. I don't know.
It's something that Americans very much care about.
I don't know anything about the average like height, but I know about the average like dick size, because there is like a website about like a dick size and different.
What's the average dick size?
Not about the average dick size. There's like all the different sizes of the dicks, and I was like curious. I was with my sister sitting there and like looking through all this geography of the world.
Nice. The geography of the world according to dick size?
Yeah, you can just like.
Wow.
Yeah.
What group has the biggest?
Congo or something.
What group has the smallest?
Asians.
I think so. Yeah.
All right, good.
Yeah, Europeans, Americans are.
What if you're half Asian, half Congolese or whatever?
That's gonna be balancing out.
Congolian.
It's
What's the
it's interesting.
Wow, that would be a really funny mix. Let's see what happens, guys.
Sorry.
All right, now we're talking about dicks.
Yeah, it's things
Always
come up.
fine. This is a works. I think this is a thing that always work. No.
What?
We just wear dicks.
What about them?
Just like there is like a type of the jokes that always work. More.
Dick jokes always work?
Like dick jokes, pussy jokes, like relationships jokes, and toilet jokes.
Aw,
This is some types of the jokes. They're flat, but they work.
Those are I call it lazy jokes. Like
Yeah, it depends on how, I don't know. Yeah, sometimes dick jokes are like really dumb.
And
but they work.
70+% of the way of when you're just like telling something, people are gonna laugh, or like more than half of the people are gonna laugh.
I try to avoid jokes like that because
And
I
that's
want them
good.
to be like somewhat of a
Means that
level
you're thinking
to it.
through.
Sometimes I'm thinking.
I think I like sexual jokes. They could be, but so I think I really wonder about your opinion here. I think jokes have layers.
Yeah.
And there are lazy jokes that have just like that top layer. So if you joke about dicks or pussy, or you swear in the right in the right moment, like especially in our language, because swearing is so much more versatile. If you swear, like we have just lots of concepts and words and everything. So if you swear in the right moment in the sentence, it will come up funny. But it's a very like that first layer type of jokes. But then, like for example, sense of humor that I like that goes in the deeper topics or more controversial topics, it's usually have like multiple layers. So there could be something sexual or swearing or something, but that just like a small part of it that adds a little bit of intensity to the joke, but actually the joke drills down like in several more layers. That's what makes it full and funny and like very entertaining on multiple levels. So how do you work? Like, do you have this thing where you are practicing and you're like, that's like lazy joke?
Yeah, I try to, I mean, I usually lead with what I think is funny first. I think the problem, like if I thought, oh, well, these people think it's funny, then I wouldn't really being authentic to what I want to do, you know? So I try to think, all right, do I think that this is funny? And if I think this is funny, I start. And then I try as best as I can to have it be a joke that has different kinds of balances. Like, yes, like there are some jokes that I say and it's very matter of fact. I told you like a funny story about something that I did. Boom, all right, great. And then I hope to like have another joke that kind of makes people reflect on how they live their lives. Like the last show that I did, I don't think it was my funniest material, but I do think that it was material that made people think a little bit more about like the chakra people or, you know, the industries that are in LA that are into healing baths and like some of the stuff is so ridiculous to me.
But
and there's humor in it. Well, I know you like healing baths or whatever.
No, you just like you choose it like
I haven't been in that show, but that sounds funny.
The thing is, we've been located near Venice. Venice is like 100% of people who just going to this sound baths and like healing and everything. So of course it's fun.
But I want them to also
Crystals?
I want them, yeah, the crystal people, I want them to laugh.
Crystal people?
Crystal people.
They hold
Like
rocks.
ketamine?
No, not crystal meth. Like the people who are not touching rocks.
Those are my people. Those are
Yeah, those people are downstairs. By the way, I almost fucking got shot by 3 of them. No, there's crystal people that like touch their energy stones. And again, all this has value. Like all this is good. But I also think it's important to have a sense of humor about the things that we do. I think that LA versus New York takes themselves kind of seriously. And I feel like they're very self-aggrandizing here. And they think that like their little rituals are so important. And I want everyone to kind of realize that this is all very silly. Sitting with you right now at a podcast, this is all very silly.
I agree.
And I feel like people in LA don't feel that way about their own lives. They take themselves so seriously, which is why I felt the need to make a joke about the fact that people are laying down on pillows, banging noises, and saying we're gonna heal ourselves. That's all ridiculous. Even though it has value, even though it might make you feel better, even though it might make you feel like part of a community, it is all dumb and ridiculous. And what are we doing? Do people not have jobs? In New York,
no one works in LA. Come on.
in New York, we couldn't go to a sound bath and then to a Reiki healer and then to a yoga class and then to a breathwork clinic because people had to work. People had a job to do. In LA, when people tell me, oh, I'm gonna go see my Reiki guy, then I'm gonna go to my chant circle, then I'm gonna go to my astrology chart guy, I say, do you have a job? And when do you actually do that job? But here you don't have to have those things, so you can, and these are all people that are single and in their 30s and don't have any of their shit together, yet they're the most evolved and they're the most, These are people who are a hot fucking mess every weekend. And I feel the need to make fun of them. I feel the need to be the guy who's like, guys, is no one gonna like say that this is dumb? I feel the need to be that person, and it's not a good quality. I know that I come off as an asshole from New York all the time. But I feel the need to be the one who's like, guys, are we all gonna just like not acknowledge that this is ridiculous?
I vibe a lot with people from New York for something like being direct, but I think but for me, this joke you make about crystal people and like healing is the same. It's on the same level. When people make joke, I worked in Big Four and finance and management consulting. So it's like I really enjoy jokes usually from New York stand-ups when they say, oh, you work in investment banking, did you do coke in the morning or afternoon, you know? It's funny. It's a stereotype. It makes like it's
stereotype based on something,
which
is like usually 90%
like,
of people.
In my job, for example, like, you know, I didn't do coke at that job, but we drank a lot. Like, it was a lot of drinking because we stayed up late in the office all the time. So it was a lot of drinking during that time. And it's fun. We used to make fun of it. And it was ridiculous because why on earth you're in the office at like midnight or 2 a.m. in the morning, like looking at fucking PowerPoint presentation and getting like drunk. And that is, you know, you working in one
it's
of
a
the
collective mindset. It's
in the top
arts.
like corporate companies. Like, it's also one of those things where if you think about it, it's kind of ridiculous. Go fucking home. What are you like? What is that? You know? But then we make fun of that, and it's also funny, I think.
I think this is a perfect timing for finish this podcast and tell that you should just find the fucking balance in your life for like not being just a wave catcher in the morning and not just work too hard in your office. Right, guys?
Yeah, I think we can wrap up. And Max, thank you so much for so much insight in your job and what you do. We enjoyed it so much and had a good laugh as well. You know, we're always happy to
love
and laugh, and don't take you know, life too seriously. Don't get offended by stuff. Just, you know, humor. Explore and have a sense of humor. Peace.
Thank you, guys.
Oh yeah, we've done it on time.
Wow, that's
On time. You see?
Yeah.
What time is it?